In the marble halls of the Galactic Council, laughter carried farther than law. Light from 3 suns fractured across mirrored ceilings, bathing the gathered delegates in gold and glass. 12 species sat beneath the banner of dominion, their robes whispering as they leaned toward one another. The presiding chancellor of Virel Prime tapped one claw against the obsidian table. "Item 72, he said. The formal surrender of the Sol system. A ripple of amusement moved through the chamber. They lasted longer than expected, murmured the Zinari envoy, her scaled crest glinting blue. Primitive worlds often die louder. Indeed, said the Velkir representative, lowering his lenses to study the hologram of Earth. Still blue, still whole. But silence is the truest death. 63 years without signal. Let us conclude the record. The Chancellor's stylus glided across the surrender edict. 12 signatures flared into light above the table. Somewhere in the data archives, humanity's file closed with a chime. Mockery filled the air. Quiet. Cultured, complete. Across the chamber's span of 200 meters, attendants carried tablets engraved with the crest of surrender. The image, an open palm, empty, rotated slowly above the council floor. A tradition older than half the species present. Such ceremony for ghosts, someone said. The Chancellor smiled. History demands its rituals. The lights dimmed as the declaration uploaded to the galactic net. It would reach 10,000 systems within the hour, archived among the conquered. Then the static began. A soft hiss threaded through the audio lines. Delegates frowned. The holograms flickered. One of the attendants froze mid-stride as her display filled with dense Terran script. Unknown formatting. Unknown protocol? Security? The Chancellor snapped. Not external interference, replied a technician. It's coming through an archived relay. Origin. Sol. Every motion in the chamber stopped. The hologram of Earth flared brighter, its orbit lines resolving into crisp blue geometry. Old satellites, hundreds of them, reactivated in sequence. Their identification codes predated the Council itself. Impossible, the Velkir delegate whispered. Those systems were dismantled. A voice broke through. Calm, human, male, no distortion. This channel is restricted, it said. Terminate unlawful claim. The translator nodes hesitated, uncertain whether to interpret or obey. The Zinari envoy leaned forward, crest trembling. Identify yourself, the voice returned unshaken. Designation irrelevant. Statement follows. For a heartbeat, only static. Then 4 words rolled through every frequency across every console, through the marble itself. Humanity, the voice said, refuses surrender. Silence followed. Real silence, dense, absolute, meters away. The surrender edict still glowed above the table, its digital seals pulsing once before extinguishing. One punchline burned into every mind. The dead just spoke. The technicians' instruments updated simultaneously. 67 orbital signals, human registry, active around Sol. Energy reading stable, output increasing. Confirm power source, the Chancellor demanded. Unknown, but aligned in formation. Delegates stared at one another. 1,000 years of protocol offered no response. The Chancellor's claw hung in the air, uncertain whether to strike the table again or not. From somewhere deep within the chamber's systems, the transmission repeated. Slower, clearer, humanity refuses. The Council's laughter did not return. Even empires learn to listen when ghosts speak. Twice. The fleet arrived at the edge of Sol with formation. Precision, 10,000 vessels. Engines burning in a disciplined blue array that stretched across 6 planetary orbits. Their admirals expected wreckage, drifting satellites, and the dull hum of extinction. Instead, they found calm, no debris fields, no radiation scars, no transmissions, just silence. Commander Serath of the Council's vanguard stood at the viewport, his 4 pupils adjusting against the glare of Sol. This system is organized, he said, voice low. Primitive worlds decay. This one has not. Across the command bridge, analysis screens flickered. Orbital lanes matched perfect circular ratios. Debris clusters positioned at 30-degree intervals, as if curated. Not natural, said the nav officer. Pattern integrity is 100%. Artificial stabilization. Sarath's throat plates tightened. They maintained orbit control for 60 years without contact? He glanced at the tactical map. 67 metallic signatures marked near-Earth orbit. Cold, unmoving, unresponsive. Each one identical in size, roughly 3.4 kilometers long. Hull density beyond Council alloys. The flagship's sensors probed the nearest structure. No IFF beacon, no power output. Just an echo, steady, harmonic. A rhythm, dead relics, muttered an ensign. Leftovers of a failed species. Sarath didn't answer. He watched the readout again. The supposed relic emitted a single pulse every 11 seconds, precise to the millisecond. Dead things don't keep time, he said quietly. Microspike. Something watches us. The fleet continued inward. Jupiter's storms rolled beneath them like living oceans, reflecting engine light. Scout wings peeled off, each deploying autonomous drones to scan the system. Within minutes, 417 probes vanished from telemetry. Sensor ghosts? No, full data loss, replied operations. Vectors terminated at identical coordinates, between Mars and Earth orbit. The command board filled with static bursts, each tagged as transmission interference. The interference pattern repeated in binary intervals, ..dash, pause, repeat, translating. Text formed across the screen, do not enter. Sarath's crest lowered. Primitive or not, that's a warning. The Council's secondary admiral, tall and crystalline, laughed. Warnings imply strength. Earth had none. Proceed, engines surged. The fleet crossed the Mars perimeter in 3 synchronized arcs. Every sensor array aligned on the cluster of Terran constructs ahead. The black silhouettes hung against the sun like monuments, smooth, seamless, without visible seams or markings. At 0.2 AU, long-range scans captured detail. The hulls were obsidian metal, reflective but layered with irregular panels, each one humming faint magnetic flux. Radiation output, negligible. Temperature variance, controlled. They're not derelicts, whispered the nav officer. They're dormant. A tremor of unease rippled through the bridge. 10,000 ships, Sarath murmured, and 67 objects just waiting for us. The secondary admiral folded her crystal arms. Then wake them, signal relays powered up. 10 billion watts of encoded energy leapt through vacuum, slamming into the leading Terran hull. The pulse returned, delayed by only 2.3 seconds. Echo response detected, said comms. Pattern identical to their old relay code. Translation, incomplete. The hologram flickered to life, an outline of a human face, featureless, motionless, lit by a faint blue grid. Then, just one word, clear and calm, acknowledged. The image faded. Every Terran construct powered on simultaneously. 67 energy signatures flared like stars igniting in reverse. Cold light blooming outward, symmetrical. Precise engines, shields, reactors, all online. The Council bridge filled with silent alarms. Not from threat detection, but from disbelief. Level rising, no radiation spill. Thermal. Containment absolute. Communication. Bandwidth, classified encryption, impossible. Sarath's throat constricted as he watched the numbers climb. They're alive, he said, and they've been waiting. For the first time in a century, Sewell spoke, not through words, but through alignment. The human ships turned slowly, their prows angling toward the intruders with mathematical grace. No weapons fire, no transmissions, just that slow, deliberate movement, as if acknowledging a trespass. The Crystal Admiral leaned closer to the viewport. Why don't they act? Sarath didn't look away. Because they don't need to. The fleet's comms flickered one last time. The same voice as before. Still calm, still human. You were warned. Silence again. Deeper this time, shaped like intent. 10,000 ships hung before 67 relics that were no longer relics. And somewhere behind them, Sewell burned brighter than it should have. The first shot came at 0412 standard, marked as ceremonial. A single plasma lance, golden and pure, arced across the void from the lead Council dreadnought. It struck the foremost Terran vessel, a black prism labeled TNS Aegis, and vanished. No explosion. No flare, just silence. Commander Sarath watched from the observation deck. Confirm impact, he ordered. Confirmed, sir, replied the sensor officer. Direct hit. Surface integrity, unchanged. He waited for the delayed explosion that never came. Then came the data. Heat return minimal. Radiation 0. Impact energy, absorbed, 96.8%. The second volley followed. 10,000 ships opened fire, lighting the void with converging rivers of plasma and ion. Energy levels rose beyond recorded thresholds. The darkness of Seoul filled with ribbons of color and fire, a spectacle of certainty, and then again, nothing. Readings? Sarath snapped. The technician's voice faltered. Absorption confirmed, 96.8%. Reflection, 3.2%. The bridge fell quiet. Outside, the reflected fraction, barely measurable, spread through the void as fine mist. It drifted, curved, and then condensed into narrow beams, invisible until they struck metal. In less than a minute, 30 council cruisers turned white-hot. Armor plating liquefied. Crew screams cut through open comms as reactors collapsed inward. Their hulls are redirecting the energy, Sarath finished. He zoomed the tactical map. The 67 Terran ships remained motionless, formation perfect, no visible weapon discharge. Their return fire was physics itself. Across the fleet network, confusion turned to panic. Command, we are sustaining feedback damage. Shut down all plasma outputs. Impossible. Field interference. 10 seconds later, the feedback loop expanded. Every plasma conduit across 2,000 vessels glowed white. By the 15th second, containment failed. The explosion count reached 412 before the auto counters froze. One punchline cut through the static. They're not shields. They're mirrors. Sarath clenched his fists. Cease fire! But the order came too late. A wave of cascading light rippled through the formation, 4.3 AU wide. Every council ship caught within that range registered thermal overrun. Systems fried. Armor sloughed off in molten sheets. The Terran vessels, still silent, adjusted orientation, slightly, as though bracing. Then, without warning, the storm ended. Energy readings fell to 0. No retaliatory strike followed. No pursuit. Only calm. Why are they not counterattacking? The Crystal Admiral hissed. Sarath's voice was low. Because they already won. Visual feeds rolled through every surviving vessel, Terran hulls glowing faintly with absorbed energy, still intact, still unblemished. The heat signatures bled away evenly, like living systems venting breath. Telemetry confirmed residual energy output stabilizing across all enemy craft. Total absorption capacity, theoretical maximum. Power source, unknown. The Admiral's expression hardened. They used our fire to recharge. A silence heavy enough to crush arrogance settled across the command bridge. For the first time, the Council fleet understood the truth. The Terrans had not been waiting to fight. They'd been waiting to measure. Sarath exhaled once. Pull us back 1 light minute. Regroup, analyze, retreat acknowledged, said the comms officer. But, sir, they're tracking our movement. On the display, the human ships rotated in synchronized arcs, maintaining precise counter-alignment. Not pursuit observation. Every motion calculated to match their withdrawal speed. They're watching our reaction, Sarath said quietly. Recording it, the tactical screen blinked. A new transmission arrived, short, narrow band, encrypted in the old Terran format. The translation engine hesitated before resolving the words. Do not repeat the error. No origin tag. No timestamp. Only the sense that something vast had chosen restraint. Microspike. Mercy is measured. The surviving ships drifted beyond Mars orbit. Engines flickering low, light scattered through debris. Behind them, Seoul burned steady, haloed by 67 silent warships reflecting the Council's arrogance back into its own eyes. And in the command deck's glass reflection, Sarath saw it clearly. Those relics hadn't fired once. They'd simply shown what happens when you attack a mirror. The Council fleet held formation at 4 light minutes from Earth when the Terrans moved. No flare, no warning. Just motion, pure, impossible motion. Sensors screamed before human ships even blurred. Velocity readouts spiked, recalibrated, and spiked again. Mach 5, Mach 12, Mach 27 equivalent in vacuum. Every predictive algorithm failed in sequence. They're accelerating without mass displacement, an officer whispered. That shouldn't exist. Commander Sarath watched as the 67 Terran vessels unfolded like blades unsheathing in silence. Each turned along a perfect vector, intersecting the Council's front line with geometric precision. Deploy intercept grids. 10,000 ships adjusted trajectory, filling the void with defense barriers, plasma screens, and quantum mines. But the human vessels didn't dodge. They wove. At 8,000 kilometers per second, they sliced through intercept patterns like light refracting through glass. Gravity wakes followed in their path, ripple distortions that tore smaller ships apart before weapons even fired. Losses? Sarath demanded. 1,200 vessels gone. They never fired a shot. The main display filled with lines of red, collision traces, sensor ghosts, shockwave ripples. The fleet's formation collapsed inward, turning elegant strategy into scattered panic. Every maneuver the Council knew relied on prediction, on reading intent. But the Terrans didn't maneuver. They calculated entire battles as equations and executed them in real time. Microspike. Kinetics rewrite the laws. The TNS Aegis led the vanguard. Its hull shone faintly blue, plasma glow diffused by polarized armor. Each burst of acceleration was perfectly timed, energy fields bending space just enough to erase drag. No radiation, no residual heat. Only movement. Clean, surgical, inevitable. The Council's second fleet pivoted to flank, firing ion lances ahead of projected intercept zones. The Terrans shifted mid-course, 17 degrees port, without visible thrust. The lances passed harmlessly through empty space. Are they anticipating us? The Crystal Admiral hissed. No, Sarath said. They're reading us like open code. 2 Terran destroyers broke formation, their trajectories crossing so closely that the kinetic wake created a micro-singularity bloom. 3 Council frigates vanished in the implosion. No debris remained, just static. Each passing second became arithmetic death. At 1 minute 9 seconds, the loss counter reached 3,480 ships. At 1 minute 22 seconds, sensors failed to track relative velocity. Then, stillness. The human fleet halted simultaneously, every ship orienting toward the remaining Council core formation. 67 ships facing 6,200 survivors. Not a scratch on them. Communications flared open again. Static resolved into a human voice. Calm. Level. Velocity doctrine engaged. Engagement concluded. The fleet panicked. They're bluffing. Continue fire. Sarath didn't move. No, he said softly. That was a demonstration. Telemetry confirmed it. Kinetic wakes had not struck civilian vessels in the periphery. Thousands of non-combat transports remained untouched, perfectly insulated from the carnage. Human targeting algorithms had carved through 4,000 ships in less than 2 minutes, without a single collateral casualty. Precision, absolute, the nav officer whispered. Sarath felt something twist inside his chest, a mixture of awe and dread. They aren't just fast, he said. They're restrained. He turned toward the viewport, watching as the Terran vessels realigned once again, this time not toward the Council fleet, but toward Jupiter's orbit. What are they doing now? Unknown, replied the technician, but gravitational fluctuations are stabilizing in their wake. They're repairing the damage we caused entering the system. The Admiral's jaw flexed. Repairing? Correcting orbital drift, the tech said. They're maintaining balance. Sarath stared. Even now, after annihilating thousands, they were preserving the system's harmony. Wolves, he murmured, guarding their own forest. Then came the ping, low, resonant, deliberate. From every Terran ship at once, a single encoded message pulsed through the tactical net. Translation completed in less than a second. Observe, learn, leave. The Admiral turned to Sarath. They're ordering us out of their system. And if we don't? On screen, the Terran fleet shifted again, forming a perfect sphere around Earth's orbital plane. 67 ships, equidistant, aligned by gravitational harmonics. Each movement radiated calm authority. Each vector, a statement. Sarath didn't answer. He didn't need to. Every officer on the bridge felt it. The quiet certainty that another step forward would erase them. Beyond the viewport, sunlight refracted off human armor like a warning halo. Mach 27 ghosts had drawn their line. The Council had already crossed it once. They wouldn't survive crossing it again. No one saw the projectile leave the barrel. No flare, no heat bloom, no flash of color, only the faint shiver of light bending across the void. The TNS Aegis fired once. At 04:19:22, standard, its mass drivers expelled 40 tungsten rods, each 6 meters long, each accelerated to 0.2 C. The targeting telemetry recorded impact windows within 0.04 seconds of one another. Total engagement time, 37 seconds. The first impact hit the Council's central flagship, a vessel 6 kilometers in length, pride of the Dominion fleet. The tungsten rod entered through its bow, exited through the stern, and kept going. The ship did not explode. It simply came apart, its midsection separating like torn paper. Impact confirmed, said the comms officer. Energy reading, pure kinetic, no plasma. No radiation. Damage assessment? Asked Commander Serath. Silence. Then, 4,100 confirmed losses. The bridge lights dimmed as the numbers populated across the screen. 4,100 red markers extinguished across the battle grid, entire wings erased. There were no wrecks to recover, no distress signals, just absence. The Crystal Admiral's composure fractured. How does solid metal do that? Serath's voice was calm. Speed, precision, intent. Outside, the void still rippled from residual gravitic pressure. The rods hadn't slowed. They'd passed through ships, debris, and escort carriers alike, carving through armor as though the vacuum itself had turned against the Council. Microspike. 37 seconds. 4,000 deaths. No follow-up shot came. The Aegis drifted quietly, its hull dark against Sol's white burn. Fleet command collapsed in the silence that followed. Communication relays filled with overlapping voices, orders, screams, denials. Admiral Tresh lost. 7th wing gone. Command lattice fractured. Repeat, lattice fractured. Serath leaned forward, staring at the ghostly grid of the Aegis on his display. They're not fighting a battle, he murmured. They're conducting a test. Across the surviving Council ships, AI systems struggled to calculate new positions. The Terran rounds had passed through 40 million cubic kilometers of space, leaving behind symmetrical tunnels of ionized dust. Every trajectory was deliberate, every strike terminally efficient. They knew exactly where we would stand, whispered the nav officer. Serath's hands tightened behind his back. Pre-computed firing solutions across multiple vectors. That's impossible. Not for them. The bridge trembled as static bloomed across comms. A single audio feed pushed through the noise. A voice, human, male, the same tone as before, calm, certain, engagement complete. Standing by, the Council's surviving admirals shouted across the net, demanding response. Identify yourself! Under what authority do you fire upon the Galactic Council? The voice returned unchanged. Under our own. The transmission cut. In the aftermath, debris drifted past the surviving fleet. No fire, no shockwaves, only the silent motion of molecular ash. Sensors measured the tungsten rods still traveling outward, beyond Pluto's orbit, slowing only fractionally under solar drag. Their kinetic paths formed an elegant pattern, precise arcs converging into what analysts recognized too late as a warning symbol. It was the Terran crest. Serath exhaled slowly. They're broadcasting geometry. The Admiral pressed trembling fingers to the table. We need to retaliate. With what? Serath asked. They've mapped every trajectory we can make. He turned back toward the viewport. The Aegis still held position at the formation's center, flanked by the other 66 Terran ships. No movement, no pursuit, no signal of intent. Why stop now? Whispered the Admiral. Because they've proven what one shot means, Serath said. The next one would mean extinction. For the first time in recorded Council history, the fleet fell entirely silent. Commanders muted channels, captains froze in orbit, officers stared at numbers they could not deny. 37 seconds. 4,100 ships, and not a single Terran vessel had taken aim since. The human fleet turned slightly, aligning toward the sun. A reflective shimmer rippled across their armor, as if acknowledging the observers still alive. Then the Terran signal repeated, narrowband, unencrypted this time. Stand down, reassess. Sarath felt the weight of those words like gravity. Around him the bridge lights flickered under the stress of power fluctuations, but he did not look away. "They won't chase us," he said softly. "They'll wait. Because they expect us to learn." Outside, Sol's light burned against the Terran hulls, calm, steady, merciful. The wolves had made their point. No pursuit came. No counterfire, no chase. No words. The 67 Terran ships, still glowing faintly from absorbed light, began to pull back from the line of battle. One by one, their engines dimmed to soft arcs of blue, vectoring away from the shattered remains of the Council Armada. Commander Sarath stood motionless at the viewport. "They're disengaging?" "Yes, sir," replied the comms officer. "Trajectory suggests they're moving toward Earth orbit. Velocity stable, Mach 0.8 equivalent. No aggression signals. Why withdraw after absolute victory?" the Crystal Admiral demanded. "We're vulnerable. They could finish us." "They don't need to," Sarath said. On the tactical map, icons flickered. Council distress beacons, thousands of them, each marking survivors trapped within crippled ships. Before any rescue order could be given, a data packet arrived. Origin Terran Fleet. Encryption, ancient human military code. The system hesitated, then translated. Civilian corridors uploaded. Prioritize evacuation. Do not engage. The bridge fell into stunned quiet. Coordinates verified. The technician whispered. "They've mapped safe paths for our escape vessels." "Impossible," said the Admiral. "They're helping us." A second message arrived, shorter. "We don't fire on the unarmed." Microspike. "Mercy is strategy." The surviving Council ships turned their sensors toward the debris field. Among the wreckage, small escape pods drifted, tens of thousands of them. Terran drones detached from the larger ships, sleek black constructs no larger than fighters, moving with calm precision. Instead of targeting, they towed. Each drone locked onto pods, damaged cruisers, or med barges, stabilizing oxygen, rerouting power, transmitting rescue frequencies. The comms channels flooded with stunned voices from the survivors. "Human drones are patching our life support. They're sending rations. They're not even scanning our weapons." The Admiral turned to Sarath. "They're showing mercy to the enemy?" Sarath's tone was measured. "No, they're defining it." The TNS Aegis transmitted once more. The message was longer this time, formatted like a field report rather than a threat. Engagement concluded. Combatants disabled. Civilians secured. Remaining fleets advised to recover and withdraw. Terra does not seek conquest. The words carried no arrogance, no emotion. Just certainty. Half the Council fleet refused to believe it. Patrol wings tried to regroup and rearm. Their systems failed before launch. All across the battle network, human interference codes shut down weapons systems with surgical precision. No explosions, no destruction, just quiet. Sarath watched as the Terrans continued their silent recovery operation. Radiation from destroyed ships began to drop as containment fields were deployed, not by Council engineers, but by human ones. "They're cleaning up our battlefield," whispered the nav officer. The Admiral stared at the holographic projection. "Why?" "Because they can," Sarath said. "And because someone else is watching." Every functioning sensor in the Council fleet registered it. Massive bursts of encrypted communications across the galactic net. Thousands of systems, millions of worlds, all receiving the same live feed. The entire war, recorded from Terran perspectives, streamed unedited, every destroyed ship, every casualty, every moment of restraint. The message played beneath the footage, stark and unflinching. Strength is not slaughter. Power is accountability. The Admiral's crest dimmed to dull transparency. "They're making an example of us," Sarath nodded once. "No, they're redefining power." By the time the last evacuation vessel departed, the humans had already sealed their formation again, silent as stone. The drones recalled, vanishing into the hulls that birthed them. "Status? All civilians accounted for," said the comms officer. "Our wounded transferred." The Terrans left nothing unaddressed. The Aegis shifted position, aligning broadside to the crippled Council command ship. For one moment, Sarath thought it would fire again. Instead, its hull lights flashed a final message in clean universal binary. Leave. Live. Remember. Then the Terran ships turned toward the sun, engines blooming like dawn. No chase. No warning. Just the quiet certainty of those who had proven their point. As the Council fleet limped toward the edge of Sul, Serath looked back one last time. 67 black silhouettes orbited Earth in perfect formation, protecting, not threatening. They gave us mercy, he said softly. And we'll never recover from it. Behind him, the Admiral asked the question everyone feared. Then what do we call them now? Serath didn't answer. The word formed anyway, unspoken but understood. Guardians. The Council fleet thought the war was over. They drifted toward the system's edge, burning, broken and quiet. Behind them, the 67 Terran ships held orbit, motionless. But the void itself was not empty. At 0522 standard, the background stars flickered. Then, without flash or pulse, space unfolded. 20 Terran formations decloaked in perfect sequence, each one emerging like a shadow peeling from another. Commander Serath's breath caught. Locations? Every major colony vector, replied the sensor officer. Mars, Luna, Titan, Ganymede, Europa. Even the asteroid belts. Total, 1,340 ships. Impossible, whispered the Crystal Admiral. They were here the entire time? Yes, Serath said. We never fought their fleet. We fought a fragment. Across the holomap, thin blue corridors appeared between planets, precise channels of gravitational stability, each one aligned toward the outer system. Along those routes, hundreds of thousands of civilian transports moved in silence. Evacuation? Confirmed. 20 million life signs outbound, said comms. Non-combatants, Council species. They're protecting our civilians, the Admiral stared. They predicted the battle and built evacuation lines before it even began. Microspike. Mercy was never reaction. It was strategy. Terran dreadnoughts formed diamond shields around each convoy. Kinetic barriers shimmered, clear, spherical, invisible until struck by radiation. Council patrols that drifted too close were redirected by gentle tractor pulses, never attacked. The TNS Aegis transmitted again, its voice clean through every surviving channel. Evacuation in progress. Maintain distance. Assistance not required, no threat, no command. Just fact, Serath leaned forward. They're moving civilians through gravitational safe lanes. That takes predictive modeling decades in advance. Centuries, corrected the nav officer. They've been planning this since before first contact. Images flooded the feeds. Shattered colonies under Terran escort. Human medships docking with alien habitats. Drones sealing radiation leaks with precision foam. None of it for show, no propaganda, no speeches. Only work, the Admiral's voice trembled. They saved 20 million of ours after we tried to erase them. Because they could, Serath said. And because they remember what it's like to be small. On Titan, cameras captured a Terran Marine detachment guiding alien children through cryogenic chambers. No helmets, no weapons drawn. Just silent efficiency. One knelt, adjusted a mask, then moved on without a word. Across every Council broadcast relay, live footage streamed, the contrast unbearable. The fleet that had been mocked as relics now carried the helpless of 12 species to safety. Comms buzzed again. A short message, no encryption. Sol safe. Corridor stable. Extraction ETA, 6 hours, Serath exhaled. They're giving us the time we need to retreat. The Admiral looked at the growing blue arcs on the screen. And they're showing the galaxy who owns mercy. Telemetry updated. Terran ships along the outer rim adjusting orbit to form a massive ring. 12 light minutes wide, aligned to the ecliptic. Every ship evenly spaced, engines angled outward. The structure glowed faintly, refracting sunlight into a golden line encircling the system. Visual confirmation, said the sensor officer. It's a perimeter field, a defensive wall. Against us? The Admiral asked. Serath shook his head. Against anyone who might follow. Microspike. Even peace has walls. Minutes later, the first evacuation corridor opened fully. Convoys of refugee craft accelerated through the safe lanes, guided by Terran navigation drones. Council fleet sensors tagged them automatically. 20 million lives accounted for. None intercepted. None lost. The comms lit up with messages from civilian ships, gratitude, disbelief, awe. Some called the Terrans angels, others executioners with conscience. Sirath simply watched. They never intended annihilation, he said. They intended demonstration. When the last convoy cleared Neptune's orbit, every Terran ship rotated in unison. The ring formation dimmed, energy emissions collapsing inward until only the faint glimmer of reflected sunlight remained. The Admiral lowered her voice. "Are they leaving?" "No," Sirath answered. "They're staying behind the line." Sensors confirmed it. The entire Terran defense grid now formed a shield between Sol and the rest of known space, a permanent boundary. No pursuit, no conquest, just a wall of silence. A final transmission appeared on all Council channels, encoded in the same calm human tone. "Evacuation complete. Border established. You are safe. Do not return." The message repeated 3 times, then ceased. In the dark of the bridge, Sarath turned toward the Admiral. "They didn't build a fortress," he said. "They built a promise." Outside, the golden ring shimmered once more across the void, bright enough to be seen from every departing ship. And every captain, every survivor, understood the same truth. Humanity's mercy had limits. They had drawn their hidden line. It began with silence. For 6 hours, that silence became the measure of war. At 06 standard, the Terran fleet engaged across 12 sectors simultaneously. No orders shouted, no grand speeches, just execution, clean, synchronized, mathematical. The first wave hit near Ganymede, kinetic bursts traveling at 0.15 C, invisible until impact. Entire squadrons vanished, erased so efficiently that their black boxes transmitted no final logs. Sarath watched the data feed collapse, red markers winking out in steady rhythm. 18,000 ships confirmed hostile. "They're prioritizing command and artillery nodes," the Crystal Admiral whispered. "How can they track all that?" "They're not tracking," Sarath said. "They're predicting." Across the Sol system, every Terran vessel acted as part of one equation. The TNS Aegis coordinated targeting algorithms, assigning each ship a microsector of fire. No overlap, no waste, microspike. Precision isn't cruelty, it's control. At 0612, the second wave began. Rail slugs swept through the void like invisible guillotines, slicing battle cruisers in half before sensors even registered trajectory. Each impact aligned perfectly with the next, forming geometric patterns across the tactical map, lines of intent instead of chaos. Council fleets tried to scatter. The attempt collapsed instantly. Human battle AI adapted faster than organic thought. Each evasive maneuver generated 10 counter-predictions. By the time a Council frigate altered course, its future had already been calculated, solved, and erased. In 40 minutes, 9,600 ships ceased to exist. Yet the Terran losses stayed under 3%, mostly due to debris collisions, not enemy fire. Every human casualty was logged in real time, acknowledged, and followed by tactical correction within milliseconds. No vengeance, just efficiency. Sarath leaned forward, staring at the casualty overlay. "They grieve through precision," he said softly. "Meaning?" asked the Admiral. "They don't waste what their dead cost them." As the battle extended, the scope widened. Near Titan's orbit, Terran destroyers engaged the Council's heavy formation. 2,300 ships clustered in defensive rings. Instead of breaching, humans unwound them, firing kinetic webs that fragmented shields, pushing the formation apart, atom by atom. In every quadrant, strikes occurred in threes. 3 seconds of engagement, 3 seconds of silence, 3 seconds of analysis. By the 3rd hour, the Council's central network was gone. Command structures vaporized, ships drifted, leaderless, and still, the Terrans did not press. They fired only on weapons still active, only on vessels refusing surrender signals. Even those were given 3 warnings, each time-stamped and recorded for future inquiry. "Every shot is being archived," the comms officer said. "Visuals, impact data, even our comms. Everything is streaming." "For who?" "The galaxy," Sarath replied. At hour 4, the engagement reached Sol's edge. Council reinforcements from Alpha Corvus arrived late, 5,000 ships strong. They entered formation, unaware of what awaited. The Terrans didn't target them directly. Instead, they transmitted the live data of every fallen fleet, their destruction, The drones rescuing survivors, the mercy offered and refused. Then one final broadcast, text only, stand down. 6 hours of fire end here. Half the reinforcements powered down their weapons immediately. The rest ignored it. The response was surgical. At 0647, Terran strike groups deployed micro-rails in triangulated orbits, firing synchronized kinetic rings. Each salvo traveled at 0.1 c, converging at pre-calculated vectors. The entire hostile formation disintegrated in 17 seconds. The light from the impacts illuminated half of Jupiter's shadow. When the dust cleared, the void was quiet again. Only Terran ships remained in stable orbit, 64 of the original 67. The surviving Council fleet was crippled, engines dead, hulls fractured. No escape burns. No pursuit. Sarath lowered his head. It's done. No, said the Admiral. It's recorded. The Aegis transmitted one final packet, compressed footage of the entire operation. Every kinetic strike, every mercy act, every disengagement logged with timestamps, coordinates and heat maps. A declaration followed, encoded in the same steady tone. Actions justified. Targets verified. Justice archived. Microspike. Law stands where mercy begins. As the last data stream stabilized, all Terran weapons powered down in unison. Reactor emissions fell to 0. The ships turned, slowly, toward the sun. 6 hours, Sarath said quietly. 18,000 ships, the Admiral nodded. And they call it restraint. Beyond the viewport, Earth's reflection glowed in the mirrored hulls of its guardians. The Council's might had been measured and found wanting. The void held its silence again, not from peace, but from understanding. The war ended without ceremony. No surrender banners, no declarations, only silence, the kind that follows judgment. Captured admirals arrived aboard Terran vessels under escort, not in chains, but in containment fields that shimmered faintly with blue light. They expected humiliation. What they found instead was order. The tribunal chamber aboard the TNS Aegis was bare. No guards, no audience. Only a circular table of black steel, and the slow pulse of holographic displays hovering above it. 12 captured officers stood in silence as the human overseer entered. A woman in gray uniform, face unreadable, eyes calm. Under Terran law, she began. Combatants who initiate unlawful aggression against non-hostile systems are accountable for civilian harm. You are not here as prisoners. You are here as witnesses of consequence. The Admiral of the Council's core fleet, scaled and proud, hissed. You dare judge us? You are relics! Survivors by chance. Her tone never changed. Survival by discipline. Judgment by record. On command, the displays activated. 6 hours of battle footage replayed. Council attacks. Human restraint. Evacuation corridors. Rescue operations. Every timestamp precise. Every order documented. 18,000 destroyed, said the overseer. But your civilian casualties 0. Because we intervened. One by one, the alien commanders watched themselves ordering bombardments, ignoring ceasefire calls, mocking surrender protocols. The evidence needed no rhetoric. Microspike. Mercy doesn't erase guilt. When it ended, the human officer spoke again. Under Terran doctrine, those who misuse power face rehabilitation, not extinction. Your systems will submit records of governance within 72 hours. Reform or dissolution. No tribute. No occupation. Compliance will be verified by transparency. The chamber was silent, except for the soft hum of the recording drones circling overhead. The scaled Admiral's crest flickered with disbelief. You offer mercy? After this? Mercy is our standard, she replied. Justice is our language. Outside the viewport, the human fleet remained in perfect formation, their hulls reflecting sunlight into the Council's crippled ships like an unblinking eye. Across the galactic net, transmissions spread faster than command structures could contain them. Entire worlds watched the proceedings live, the victors treating their enemies with restraint, their war crimes tried by open tribunal rather than vengeance. A Council envoy whispered, "This changes everything." It did. Within a day, smaller empires declared unilateral ceasefires. Trade routes reopened under Terran mediation. Systems once loyal to the Council requested diplomatic integration into what broadcasts now called the doctrine of measured strength. Humanity refused every offering of tribute. They requested only reforms, free travel, protected archives, abolition of forced labor across the core. Sarath, now serving as liaison aboard the Terran flagship, stood beside the overseer as verdicts were issued. "You're rebuilding our order," he said. She didn't deny it. "We're repairing what you forgot how to be." On the display, planetary leaders across 5 sectors signed the Accord of Conduct, binding themselves to transparent warfare restrictions, civilian protections, and conflict arbitration under shared Terran oversight. "Power with accountability," Sarath murmured. "We mocked you for that. Now you survive because of it." The human officer turned toward the viewport, where the sun flared against the mirrored hulls of the fleet. The last of the tribunals concluded. No executions, no trophies. Just recorded oaths, archived in Terran databanks for public access. Every system could watch, learn, and remember. Microspike. Justice televised is justice enforced. In the aftermath, no anthem played. The Terran fleet simply adjusted orbit, engines glinting like glass in the light. The transmission that followed was simple, final, and absolute. War ends. Reform begins. Sarath listened, the words resonating like law written in light. "You don't conquer," he said quietly. "You correct. Conquest is inefficient," she replied. "Correction endures." As the broadcast reached the outer systems, thousands of civilizations aligned their networks toward Earth. Not out of fear, but because for the first time in centuries, justice had a location, beyond the rim of mapped space, where even the Council's archives ended. Darkness stirred. Not the silence of distance, but the silence of something waiting. It began as a whisper through Terran deep space relays, a pulse buried beneath cosmic noise. Duration, 0.7 seconds. Frequency pattern, pre-collapse exterminator code, extinct for 1,000,000 years. Inside the TNS Aegis, the signal replayed across the bridge. "Low, rhythmic, ancient." The crew said nothing. They simply listened. Commander Sarath, now liaison under Terran command, stared at the waveform. "Origin?" "Beyond the Perseus boundary," replied the sensor chief. "Coordinates point 1.4 million light-years past the galactic rim. Multiple emitters. Sequential activation." "Exterminator lattice," said the captain quietly. "Something's waking up." No alarm sounded. No panic, only motion. Across Sol, fleets came alive. The 67 Guardians of Earth turned outward, aligning along a single vector. Farther out, the 20 hidden formations decloaked once more. Those same vessels that had protected evacuation corridors now reforming into combat phalanxes. Telemetry flickered across every screen. Reactor levels rose to 98% output. Rail batteries warmed. Hull plating shifted, sealing into full combat configuration. No orders broadcast. No speeches transmitted. Humanity moved as one organism. Its purpose already understood. Microspike. Mercy ends at extinction. Sarath watched from the observation deck as the Terran armada oriented toward the abyss. "You knew this was coming," he said. The captain nodded once. "Everything alive leaves an echo. Some echoes hunt. From the edge of Sol, a transmission pulsed outward, tight beam, encrypted, silent to alien receivers. It carried no words, only sequence codes known to every Terran ship. Protocol Kairos, engines flared. Fleets folded space, vanishing in bursts of blue-white displacement. Their departure left shimmering wakes that bent sunlight into arcs around Earth. Across the galactic net, billions watched the exodus in real time. No propaganda, just the sight of ships leaving home with calm inevitability. On the Council capital, reformed under Terran mediation, leaders stood beneath their rebuilt chamber dome, watching the feed in silence. Someone whispered, "Where are they going?" Sarath's recorded reply played from an archived interview, "Where the next threat begins." Beyond the rim, telescopes caught movement. Ancient structures, massive rings of obsidian metal, rotated once after ages of dormancy. The old extermination network, long believed myth, was awake again. Energy signatures spiked across intergalactic voids, and somewhere between galaxies. Human sensors answered with mirrored pings, returning coordinates like a challenge. In the command archives, a final line appeared beneath the battle logs of Sol. Engagement pending. Doctrine unchanged. The Terran fleet's transmissions fell silent. Only one final image reached back through the network. A view from the Aegis's forward camera. A dark horizon, a million stars, and in the faint reflection across its obsidian hull, a curved glint that looked almost like a smile. Microspike. The wolves remember. Then the feed cut to black. Across the galaxy, civilizations held their breath, waiting for the next signal. None came. Only the echo, steady, deliberate human marking the edge of known space.